She fed him when he had nothing,
only for him to rise, divorce her, and marry a gold digger.
but karma doesn't forget. When his empire crashes and she rises, he comes crawling back, but her kitchen doesn't serve regret. Ashes of his wealth, where loyalty ends and payback begins. Subscribe now to Folktales by Noble for more thrilling African stories.
The sun rose with its usual insistence over the rusted rooftops of Aba, where the air carried a mix of diesel, dust, and fried akara. Amara Obi was already awake. She always was. Before the neighborhood stirred, before children began chasing plastic balls in the dirt streets, before the booming voice of her landlord reminded everyone rent was overdue, Amara was on her feet, tying her wrapper, hands deep in a bowl of spicy pepper marinade. She owned nothing but her spirit and a rickety roadside food stand near Ariaria Market. Each morning, she lit a small charcoal stove and began frying plantains, boiling rice, and wrapping moi in old newspaper. The profits were barely enough to buy ingredients for the next day, but they kept one thing steady: food on the table for her husband, Chike. Chike Obi had dreams bigger than the city could contain. A tall, slender man with sharp cheekbones and a permanent frown of frustration, he spent his days in overcrowded internet cafes, fingers tapping on borrowed keyboards, chasing an invisible future. "I just need time," he would whisper, eyes blazing with ambition. One app, just one breakthrough, Amara. And Amara believed him. They had met in their university days when Chike was full of energy and brilliance, and Amara had been studying accounting with her late mother's last savings. Their love was the kind that burned fiercely, late-night conversations, shared ambitions, hands clasped in rainstorms. But when her mother passed, and Amara dropped out to fend for herself, reality shoved romance aside. They married in a modest church ceremony with no cake, no fanfare, just hope. And when Chike lost his job at a failing cyber cafe, Amara did what she knew best. She hustled. She cleaned offices at night and cooked during the day. Some weeks she ate nothing, so Chike could focus. They shared a one-room zinc-roofed apartment with a threadbare curtain dividing the sleeping space from the kitchenette. The bed squeaked, the fan hummed off rhythm, and the neighbor's crying baby was their lullaby. But Amara never complained. Instead, she poured herself into supporting Chike's dream. She once pawned her late mother's gold chain, her most precious heirloom, just to buy Chike a second-hand laptop. The keyboard was missing 2 letters, and the battery barely held power, but Chike's face lit up like a child's. "You'll see," he said, holding her hands. "This is the beginning." Yet the beginning was filled with endings. First, the app he built for local traders crashed. Then another meant to track fuel prices was stolen by a bigger company with more resources. Every disappointment drove him deeper into obsession and depression. And Amara? She kept showing up, day after day, stand after stand. She took orders from angry taxi drivers, got catcalled by idle boys, and ignored the whispers from neighbors. "Now that fine girl they feed that jobless man, she they waste her youth. She for don't carry bell for another man by now." But Amara smiled and flipped her akara. Her loyalty was not for sale. Some nights she came home to find Chike staring blankly at the cracked ceiling, his laptop resting on his chest like a coffin lid. Other nights he snapped at her, frustrated by code errors or rejections. She bore it all, the mood swings, the financial drought, the insults, because deep down She believed in what they were building, not just an app, a future. One rainy evening, soaked to the bone and exhausted from the day, Amara sat under the tiny leaking awning outside their home, counting coins. The rain tapped on the roof like mocking fingers, and her stomach growled from hunger. Chike came out of the room with a wild look in his eyes. "Babe, I did something." She looked up, wiping water from her brow. "What is it?" "I sent the prototype of my health tracker to a venture capitalist in the UK. I found his contact online." He responded. Her heart skipped. Responded how? "He wants a video call tomorrow. He said it has potential." Amara stared at him, unsure if the thunder outside was louder than her heartbeat. For years she had watched him stumble through despair. And now? She stood, held his face with her tired hands, and said, "Then tomorrow we show him what you're made of." That night they prepared together. She ironed his only shirt. She helped him script his pitch. She stayed up to tweak the lighting with their rechargeable lamp so the backdrop during the video call didn't look like a slum. At dawn, she rushed out to buy him tea and bread with the last 500 naira they had. The call came at noon. Amara waited outside, fingers clenched in prayer, heart pounding. Minutes crawled like hours. Finally Chike emerged. His lips trembled. His eyes were glassy. "What happened?" she whispered. He wants to invest," Chike said, barely breathing the words. £20,000 as seed capital. The silence between them was electric. Then Amara dropped the tray she was holding and screamed. That night there was no meat to eat, no champagne to pop, but there was joy, unfiltered, raw joy. They danced in the candlelight, barefoot, poor, but high on hope. For once, Chike didn't talk about ideas. He talked about plans, about registering the business officially, about hiring a developer, about moving to Lagos, where real tech funding was happening. And for the first time in years, Amara allowed herself to imagine something beyond the roadside stand, a home with tiled floors, a kitchen that didn't reek of kerosene, a soft mattress, a proper future. She looked at Cheek, her husband, her burden, her blessing, and whispered, "Promise me you won't forget who helped build the dream." He kissed her forehead and replied, "Never." But in the shadows of that beautiful promise, fate sharpened its claws, waiting to test them once more. But for now, their lives were about to change. It began with headlines. Young Nigerian tech star raises $1 million in Series A funding. From Abba to the world, meet Chike Obi, Africa's new Silicon darling. And just like that, their lives changed. One moment, Amara and Cheek were dodging rain through the muddy alleys of Abba, and the next, they were checking into a luxury apartment on Lagos Island with high ceilings, imported furniture, and a view of the ocean so blue it looked unreal. Amara walked barefoot on the cold marble tiles, overwhelmed by the quiet hum of air conditioning and the scent of fresh paint and new money. Chike stood by the window, wearing a custom white caftan stitched in London, arms crossed, a proud smirk on his face. "We made it," he said. Amara smiled, blinking away tears. "We did." In the beginning, it felt like a fairy tale. Cheek's startup, LifeSync, had been bought by an American health tech giant. With the acquisition came more money than either of them had ever imagined. Millions. They stopped counting. Amara tried to hold on to the things that grounded her. She still rose early, still cooked by hand, though now it was in a fully automated kitchen. She brought her mother's worn recipe book and arranged it beside the imported cookbooks in the glass cabinet. But as the zeros in Chike's bank account multiplied, so did the distance between them. At first, it was subtle. He'd be on endless calls at midnight, speaking with investors and tech influencers from Dubai, San Francisco, and Berlin. He started using strange words: burn rate, seed round, VC pipeline. He told Amara not to worry about finances anymore and handed her a debit card. Just enjoy yourself, baby. This is your reward. Then came the invitations, tech panels, yacht parties, exclusive brunches at Banana Island Estates. Amara, in her modest lace dresses and simple heels, would sit quietly beside him at these events. At first, until he stopped taking her along altogether. "I'll be back late," he'd say, adjusting his designer blazer in the mirror. "It's mostly industry people. You'll be bored." "I'm your wife," she would whisper. He would kiss her forehead absently. "I know, but this is just business." The first time she met Vanessa Okafor, it was at a foundation gala hosted by a Lagos senator. Vanessa was everything Amara wasn't: tall, sleek, surgically sculpted, and dressed like a billboard for wealth. Her voice was smooth, like silk dipped in poison, and her laughter floated through the air like perfume. She was introduced to Chike by an oil magnate. Amara stood beside him, unnoticed, holding her glass of Chapman like a child clinging to juice in a bar full of whiskey. "Oh?" Vanessa had said, eyeing Amara with a smirk. "You're the wife? You look sweet. Very local." The word landed like a slap. Chike laughed awkwardly. "She's grounded. That's why I married her." But that night he didn't hold Amara's hand, and Vanessa didn't stop calling. Within months, the cracks widened. Chike began sleeping in the guest room under the excuse of late-night focus. He changed his wardrobe. He changed his car. He changed his laugh. And one Friday morning, he changed everything. Amara was frying yam in the kitchen when a lawyer arrived at the door with divorce papers. At first, she thought it was a prank. Some mistake? But when Chike came home that night, she knew it wasn't. He didn't look guilty. He looked relieved. "I've outgrown some things," he said flatly. "Some things?" she echoed, voice trembling. "Or some people? You and I, we come from love. But this is business now, and you wouldn't understand this world." "I built you," she whispered. "I starved for you, sold everything, prayed for you." He turned away. "I'm sorry, Amara. You'll be fine. You're strong." The court proceedings were brutal. Chike's team painted Amara as a glorified housewife. They argued she had no legal ownership of the startup. She had no degree, no business record, no investment on paper. "You made no material contribution," the judge said, quoting Chike's lawyer. "This court cannot grant more than a token settlement." Amara didn't cry in court. She sat tall in her wrapper and blouse, clutching her mother's food-stained recipe book like a weapon. When it was over, she stepped out of the courtroom, took off her wedding ring, and placed it gently on the marble bench outside. Then she walked away. No driver, no paparazzi. Just a woman walking out of someone else's dream. The tabloids had a field day. Tech genius Chike Obi officially divorced. Sources say ex-wife was too local for his vision. Who is Vanessa? The beauty queen taking Lagos by storm. Photos of Vanessa and Chaka flooded social media, vacationing in Seychelles, attending tech expos in Singapore, clinking champagne glasses in Dubai. She became the face of the new African elite, and he was her loyal king. Amara disappeared from view. She moved out of Lagos Island. No one knew where. Rumors said she returned to Aba. Others said she opened a small eatery in Enugu. but she was gone. Vanessa, meanwhile, took her place, his place. Her name began to appear on company filings. She appeared at press conferences in designer gowns, calling herself Chief Strategy Officer of LifeSync. People forgot Amara ever existed. On the day of the wedding, the world watched. It was live-streamed on 3 platforms, with a drone capturing every detail: the floating floral aisle, the custom-designed rings, the celebrity guest list. Vanessa wore a shimmering gold dress rumored to cost 80 million naira. Chike wore a white tuxedo, eyes hidden behind designer sunglasses, as if shielding himself from the weight of his past. A popular influencer called it the perfect African tech fairy tale. Amara watched it from a cracked phone screen in a small shop somewhere far from Lagos. She watched until the screen went black. Then she closed her eyes, whispered a prayer, not for Cheek, but for herself, not for revenge, but for rebirth, because while they toasted under chandeliers, she was kneading dough. While they danced to live saxophones, she was sketching a business logo in pencil. While the world crowned a new tech queen, Amara was silently building a kingdom, one no camera could see. As the internet celebrated Vanessa, the dazzling new bride, the headline screamed, "Lagos's new tech queen, Vanessa Okafor weds billionaire Chike Obi in record-breaking ceremony." And somewhere in the shadows, Amara Obi turned the final page of her mother's recipe book and began again. Chike Obi was now a man of the world, or so he thought. After his star-studded wedding to Vanessa Okafor, Lagos society opened its doors wide to him. He moved with a new confidence. Diamond-studded watches, private jets to Johannesburg, backdoor meetings in Dubai, and Instagram lives from the decks of floating mansions. Every picture of him and Vanessa was curated, polished, and polished again. Hashtags like number power couple goals, number tech royalty, and number Lagos elite trailed behind them like obedient shadows. But beneath the gloss, something hollow grew. It began subtly. Vanessa, always calculating, began attending Chika's business meetings. She dressed the part, sharp suits, soft perfume, and an iPad always in hand. Investors and partners praised her poise. Journalists called her the woman behind the man. Chike, drunk on attention, fed the image. "She understands me," he would say at brunches. "She's got the mind for scale. I'm the visionary, but Vanessa is the architect." He believed it. So when she suggested signing over a majority share of LifeSync for tax optimization and investor stability, he didn't hesitate. She presented a document wrapped in love and legal jargon. "This is just a formality," she said, caressing his shoulder. "You're still the face. I just want to protect what we built, what you built." He signed it with a smile. That night, she kissed him harder than usual. He thought it was love. It was triumph. Meanwhile, far from the skyline of Lekki and Banana Island, Amara was building again. Enugu welcomed her with quiet dignity. No flashing cameras, no marble floors, just red soil, warm smiles, and the kind of peace that doesn't shout. She rented a tiny stall beside a local pharmacy, laid out wooden benches, and hung a hand-painted sign above it, Amara's Organic Kitchen. Her first day brought only 2 customers, a tired taxi driver and a pregnant woman craving unripe plantain porridge. But the flavors told stories, the spices danced, and word spread like Harmattan fire. Within months, she upgraded from a stall to a small shop, then another, then a contract to supply organic lunch to a nearby office complex. She had no social media team, no press coverage, just her mother's recipes, a battered journal, and a quiet belief that good things grow slowly. Back in Lagos, however, Chike was sprinting toward ruin. Vanessa began missing meetings. Her explanations were vague: jet lag, family stress, spa burnout. She hired consultants who billed millions for doing nothing. Lavish rebranding campaigns drained company funds. Their new AI division, supposedly their future, was exposed as a fraud built on stolen code. Investors started pulling out. Taxes went unpaid. Salaries bounced. Auditors sniffed blood. Cheek didn't see it coming. Or maybe he refused to. He kept spending, kept flaunting, kept posing. One evening, during an exclusive tech gala in Accra, a junior developer whispered to him in the hallway, "Sir, there's something wrong with the accounts." But Chike brushed it off. "Vanessa handles that. Speak to her." He never found Vanessa at that event, or the next. One morning, he woke up to silence. No maid, no sound of heels, no perfume in the air. Just an empty side of the bed and a letter on the dresser. "Don't look for me. It was never about you. It was always about the money. Try not to embarrass yourself chasing ghosts. V." His phone buzzed seconds later. Alerts from banks, closed accounts, frozen assets. He tore through their walk-in closet, gone. Jewelry, laptops, passports, documents, even the wedding album. Gone. By noon, the internet knew. Tech CEO Chike Obi's wife allegedly empties company accounts, disappears. From power couple to public scandal, the fall of Chike and Vanessa. Exclusive! Vanessa spotted in Paris with French billionaire heir. Within 48 hours, Chike was trending for all the wrong reasons. The media turned savage. Those who once praised him for revolutionizing African health tech now questioned his judgment, his morals, even his sanity. Memes flooded Twitter. Ex-partners dragged old contracts into the light. Employees leaked screenshots. Chike the Clown began trending. His so-called friends? Gone. His lawyer demanded upfront payment. Even the driver he tipped weekly stopped answering calls. Chick, once the poster boy for black excellence, became a warning. He sold the penthouse first, then the cars, then the watches. Still, it wasn't enough. His accounts were audited. He owed taxes, partners, and angry investors. Fraud investigations circled like vultures. In desperation, he reached out to old contacts in Silicon Valley. Most ghosted him. One replied bluntly, "You were good once, but we can't trust a man who didn't protect his own company." He stopped opening emails after that. By the third month, he was living in a service apartment on the mainland. The generator broke down often. The AC wheezed. Mosquitoes hummed like mockery at night. One afternoon, hungry and desperate, Chike boarded a bus to Aba. He wore a faded polo shirt and borrowed jeans. No one recognized him. He passed the same streets where he once kissed Amara by candlelight, the same roadside where she used to fry plantain to keep him fed. Now he walked them alone. He entered a microfinance bank, shoulders hunched. "I need a small loan," he told the receptionist. She looked up from her screen, uninterested. "Name?" "Chike Obi." She paused, blinked. "As in the Chike Obi?" He smiled faintly, ready to bask in recognition. She frowned. "Sorry, sir. That name doesn't ring a bell." She handed him a form without eye contact. Just another applicant. He stepped outside and sat on a broken concrete slab, hands trembling. For the first time in years, there were no headlines, no cameras, no Vanessa, no Amara, just silence. And the bitter truth, he had climbed too fast, forgotten too much, trusted too blindly, And now he had nothing. As night fell over Abba, the once revered billionaire, draped in dust and silence, walked through the market streets, passing the kind of women who once sold him meals, past the small boys who once chased his car screaming his name. Now no one turned. No one looked twice. Chike Obi, the forgotten tech king, vanished into the very city that once birthed his dreams, carrying nothing but regret and the echo of a name no one remembered anymore. The scent of jollof rice, grilled tilapia, and ripe plantain floated through the air like a soft, rich memory. The flagship branch of Mama Amara's organic kitchen, nestled in a quiet corner of Enugu's bustling Independence layout, was nothing short of an oasis. The walls were painted with calming earth tones, decorated with traditional Enka art, and framed photos of Amara at various food exhibitions across West Africa. It was no longer just a restaurant. It was a movement. Inside, customers from all walks of life filled the seats. Business executives in suits, mothers with their children, tourists snapping photos. The servers moved swiftly, guided by well-trained precision. In the corner, a young food vlogger did a live review, praising the perfect balance between native flavor and modern health-conscious cooking. Amara Obi, now in her mid-30s, stood at the center of it all, graceful, composed, radiating quiet power. Her natural hair was wrapped in a neat Ankara turban, and she wore a fitted branded blouse over jeans, her company logo stitched in gold above her heart. She had grown not just in wealth or reputation, but in poise. Pain had refined her. Failure had forged her. She didn't chase the spotlight. The spotlight came to her. That evening, just before closing, the wind shifted. A quiet stir began at the entrance. No one noticed at first. He blended too well now. His appearance no longer carried the power it once did. Chike Obi stepped inside, thin, unshaven, eyes hollow with fatigue. His shirt hung awkwardly off his frame, and his leather shoes, once symbols of his elite status, were cracked and dust-covered. He stood for a moment, blinking against the warm light of the place, unsure if he should proceed. Then he saw her. Amara was at the far end of the restaurant, overseeing a new inventory delivery. She looked over her shoulder and froze. Their eyes met. For the first time in years, silence passed between them. Not hatred, not tension, just silence full of unspoken history. Chike lowered his gaze and walked slowly to the counter. A young waitress greeted him politely, but before she could ask for his order, Amara raised a hand gently. "I'll take this one," she said, her voice as calm as rainfall. The waitress nodded and stepped away. Chike stood awkwardly, wringing his hands. "I didn't know this was your place," he said finally. Amara tilted her head. "Most people don't. I don't put my face on billboards." There was a pause. Someone mentioned the food was good," he added, then offered a weak chuckle. "I didn't realize I was walking into your world." Amara looked him over, slowly taking in every change, the faded pride, the heavy shame. "You look hungry," she said simply. "I am," he whispered, "not just for food, for forgiveness." She nodded once, then motioned to a server behind the counter. "Please prepare the farmer's plate for our guest," she said. "And water?" "No, please," Chike stammered, reaching into his pocket. "I have a little—" She raised her hand again. "It's free. Consider it. A memory?" He said nothing, just nodded. She led him to a quiet table in the corner, one usually reserved for private guests. He sank into the chair, bones aching. Minutes later, the plate arrived, grilled yam and fish, sautéed greens with ugba, and a generous scoop of native sauce. Aromas of garlic, ginger, and garden egg danced around him like a lullaby from the past. He stared at the plate, then slowly began to eat. Amara sat across from him, arms folded gently. She didn't touch her phone. She didn't speak. She just watched. Chick didn't rush. He ate slowly, tears welling up in his eyes, spoon after spoon. When he was halfway through, he stopped. "I messed up," he said quietly. "I lost everything. Vanessa, the money, my company, everything." Amara didn't flinch. "I remember the first time I tasted your food," Cheeky continued. "We were in that tiny room in Abba, and you brought me spicy plantain and fish. You were broke, tired, and still found a way to feed me." She smiled faintly. "You were the fire that lit my dream, Amara, and I took that light and used it to burn you." He looked up, eyes trembling. "I'm sorry." For a long moment, Amara said nothing. Then she leaned forward. Her voice was low but sharp. "This," she said, nodding toward the plate, "is the same food that fed your dreams." Chaka blinked. She continued, "But pity it couldn't feed your soul." He lowered his head. "You had everything," she said, calm and steady. "Not just the money. You had loyalty, sacrifice, something real, and you traded it all for applause, for a mirror held up by strangers, for a woman who loved only your reflection." She stood up gently. "I don't hate you, Chick. I don't wish you harm." She picked up the used napkin he had placed beside his plate, folded it once, and added, "But I don't owe you anything more." Then she turned and walked away.
Chike sat frozen. Around him, life moved on. Servers cleared tables, a young couple laughed near the window, music played softly from the speakers, a mellow Afro-jazz tune that sounded distant. Amara walked to the far side of the room and greeted a customer. She smiled, gestured to a framed photo of her first kiosk in Abba. She took a call about a new franchise opening in Port Harcourt. She welcomed a supplier with a firm handshake. She didn't look back. Chike sat there, the taste of her food lingering on his tongue, flavors filled with history, with struggle, with grace. He wasn't just full. He was exposed, everything he had become, everything he had lost. Outside, the sky darkened. A soft drizzle began. Chike slowly stood, unsure whether to leave or thank her again. But the moment was over. The new generation of dreamers, eaters, lovers, and hustlers filled the seats he once thought were meant for him. He walked out into the rain, unnoticed, uncelebrated, just another man in the city that once sang his name. Inside the restaurant, Amara laughed as she flipped through her recipe book with a staff member. The walls glowed with soft light, her business humming with purpose and pride. Outside, under the soft Enugu rain, Chike stood in silence, watching through the glass, watching the woman he left behind become the woman he could never deserve. Not anymore. Not ever again.
Thanks for watching. Subscribe now to Folktales by Noble for more thrilling African stories.